Hey everyone, welcome back to Fantasy Gleam. Imagine a night that simply doesn't end. The stars stay frozen in the sky. The wind holds its breath. And every clock in the world stops at the same moment, 12:01 a.m. This isn't a story of monsters or heroes. It's a quiet, ancient mystery. One that began when the world forgot the memory of the sun. Tonight, you'll journey through temples buried in snow, forgotten rituals, and the whispers of a world caught between darkness and dawn. This is the longest night of the year. A story to help you drift into sleep while your mind wanders through the oldest legends of light and shadow. Eira adjusted the microphone in her small, dimly lit studio. A soft hum of equipment filling the quiet room. Outside, a frost-coated world lay still, pale and hushed under a sky that refused to lighten. She had expected the sun to rise hours ago, but the horizon remained a deep, endless blue, heavier than twilight, colder than night. Her voice, usually steady, faltered for the briefest moment as she began narrating the documentary. Tonight, we mark the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. Her words felt strangely hollow, echoing off the walls as if the room itself were listening. Normally, the solstice was a predictable phenomenon, measured by calendars, astronomers, and centuries of careful observation. Tonight, however, all that certainty had slipped away. Eira rose and drew the thick curtains aside, pressing her palm against the frosted glass. The world outside was bathed in a shadowed, almost liquid darkness. No birds called, no hint of dawn tinged the clouds. Even the wind seemed paused, frozen mid-whisper. For a moment, she wondered if she was still dreaming, or if reality had tilted slightly on its axis. She sank back into her chair, her fingers resting lightly on her notes. Every solstice she had studied had its rituals, its stories, its predictable sunrise. But tonight, time itself felt askew. Clocks ticked, yet somehow, they did not. The soft blue of the sky pressed against her eyes like a question she could not answer. The air smelled faintly of winter pine, and the distant toll of a single church bell struck a rhythm that seemed offbeat, echoing as if carried from another era. Eira's heart quickened. There was a quiet, almost imperceptible vibration through the floorboards, like the pulse of something vast stirring beneath the earth. It was subtle, easy to dismiss, yet undeniable. Her narrator's mind raced between reason and disbelief. Perhaps the sun is late, she murmured to herself. Or perhaps it is waiting for us. A shiver ran down her spine. The night had begun like any other, but now it stretched endlessly before her, a canvas of shadows, frost, and impossible stillness. And somewhere deep within her, Eira felt a whisper, faint, yet certain that this was not merely the longest night of the year. It was a night that had chosen to linger, and perhaps to reveal something forgotten. She leaned forward, took in a slow, steadying breath, and began to speak again. This time, her voice was lower, quieter, almost reverent. Somewhere between history and dream, the world has paused, and ancient voices may be stirring once more. Outside, the darkness waited, patient and infinite, as if listening to her words. Eira's journey took her northward, where the ancient stones of Stonehenge stood in solemn silhouette against the endless night. The field was empty, yet the air carried a resonance, a low hum that seemed to rise from the earth itself, vibrating under her feet. Each step she took on the frost-hardened grass sent tiny shivers of sound curling through the stones, as if they were breathing, listening, alive. Villagers from nearby hamlets whispered of strange occurrences during solstices past, soft chants drifting across the plains while they slept, voices singing in languages they did not understand. Tonight, Eira began to feel those whispers herself, not as echoes from memory, but as currents brushing her mind, fragile and haunting. The stones, weathered by millennia, seemed to pulse with a rhythm older than the sun, older than any calendar or priestly record. She circled the towering trilithons, tracing her fingertips along their cold, rough surfaces. There were carvings she had never noticed before, faint spirals and angular marks, etched deep enough to catch moonlight. Yet the moon was absent, swallowed by the relentless night. It was as if the stones had been waiting for her, or for someone to return and watch, to feel the weight of their quiet power. Eira paused in the center of the circle, closing her eyes. The hum grew stronger, almost melodic, blending with the subtle rustle of the winter grass and the occasional sigh of the wind. A memory flickered. Children of ancient times, dancing, drumming, singing as their elders watched, teaching them to honor the sun's rebirth. Now, those dances were silent, the drums stilled, and yet the stones retained the rhythm, holding on to the heartbeat of long-forgotten generations. She shivered, not from cold, but from the uncanny sense that the stones were more than stone. They drank the night, absorbed the dark, and stored it, not as emptiness, but as a reservoir of memory, waiting for eyes and hearts awake enough to perceive it. And tonight, with the sun stubbornly absent, the stones thrummed with life, singing a slow, resonant song only the patient could hear. For a moment, Eira felt dizzy, caught between centuries. Could the night itself be alive here? Could the earth be reminding her, whispering truths lost in time? She opened her eyes and realized that the horizon, still heavy with shadow, seemed to lean closer to the stones, pressing the sky into the circle as if to share a secret. The longest night stretched onward, and Eira, standing amid the ancient giants, understood that some mysteries were not meant to be solved. They were meant to be felt, to be heard in the hum beneath your feet, in the silence that fills the space between stars that have yet to rise. Eira had returned to her small observatory, a modest building perched on a windswept hill, far from city lights. The screens that usually tracked celestial movement glowed softly in the dim room, yet tonight their data seemed wrong. Clocks ticked, but their hands quivered as though uncertain, and every second stretched longer than the last. She pressed her palm against the edge of a brass astrolabe, feeling its cold metal vibrate faintly, in rhythm with the low, pervasive hum she had felt among the stones. Instruments that had never failed her blinked in quiet confusion. Pendulums froze mid-swing, sextants refused to align, and compasses spun in hesitant, looping circles. News reports crackled from a distant radio, voices frantic yet muffled. Across the northern hemisphere, clocks had frozen at 12:01 a.m. Time itself, it seemed, had hesitated. Astronomers spoke of inexplicable slowdowns in Earth's rotation, their voices a mixture of awe and fear. No satellite, no telescope, no calculation could explain the anomaly. It was as though the solstice had stretched its arms across the planet, holding the world in a quiet, suspended breath. Eira walked to the window, staring out into the endless indigo sky. The stars, too, seemed to waver in subtle, impossible patterns, drifting slightly from where they should have been. The constellations she had memorized as a child no longer aligned, yet there was a strange beauty in their misalignment, as if the cosmos itself were rearranging to draw attention to some hidden truth. Her mind reeled with the implications. If time was faltering, if the heavens themselves had grown restless, then perhaps the longest night was no longer a simple astronomical event. Perhaps it had become something alive, something that could bend perception, twist reality, and whisper secrets to those willing to listen. A chill swept through the observatory, carrying the faint, metallic temps of frost on the wind. Eira felt the pulse again, that same subtle vibration from Stonehenge coursing through the floor and into her bones. It was rhythmical, deliberate, almost like the heartbeat of the earth itself, and somewhere beneath that heartbeat, she thought she heard the echo of ancient voices, calling her attention to patterns long forgotten. She sank into her chair, staring at the frozen clock face. The second hand hovered, trembling. Eira realized that tonight, the solstice was not merely the longest night of the year. Tonight, the world itself had paused, leaving her at the edge of a threshold where history, memory, and myth intertwined. And somewhere, she knew, the first whispers of a revelation vast, impossible, and deeply ancient were beginning to stir. The following morning, or what should have been morning, Eira found herself in a quiet archive, tucked beneath the shadowed arches of an ancient library. Dust hung thick in the air, settling on rows of leather-bound tomes whose spines seemed to murmur with age. She moved slowly between the shelves, each footstep muted against the cold stone floor. The world outside still locked in its impossible night. Her fingers traced the edges of manuscripts yellowed with centuries. Then, In a corner untouched by modern cataloging, she discovered a set of journals bound in soft, dark hide. Their covers bore an unfamiliar emblem. A simple circle, broken by a single line. The symbol pulsed faintly under her fingertips, almost like it were alive, whispering to her very senses. Eira opened the first journal, and the scent of aged parchment and faint incense rose, curling around her like a memory. The handwriting was careful and deliberate, an elegant script of an era long gone. The Lightkeepers, the journal explained, were priests and observers of the solstice, dedicated to tracking the sun's patterns and preserving its memory during the longest nights. Their warnings were clear. When the dawn delays, when the night refuses to yield, the memory of the sun must be rekindled by human hands through ritual, attention, and remembrance. As she read further, Eira felt a shiver run through her. The journals were filled with instructions, but not the sort of ceremonial steps one might expect. They spoke of watching, listening, and feeling. The sun sleeps within our recollection, one passage whispered, and only those who remember its warmth can call it back. Another warned, neglect, forgetfulness, or disbelief allows the nights to grow long, and then it feeds on what is lost. Her eyes lingered on a page depicting a drawing of a small candle, surrounded by a ring of intricate symbols. Beside it, a note scrawled in faint ink read, "Even the smallest flame holds memory against the darkness." Eira's breath caught. The journals implied that the longest night was not merely astronomical, it was sentient, patient, and sensitive to human awareness. Suddenly, the air in the archive shifted. A soft hum threaded through the stone corridors. Faint, but unmistakable. The same vibration she had felt at Stonehenge, and in her observatory. It moved across the pages of the journals, almost lifting them, as though the Lightkeepers themselves were aware she had arrived. Eira leaned back, the weight of the realization settling around her like a shroud. These writings were not just records of history, they were warnings. The longest night, now lingering beyond its natural bounds, demanded remembrance. It demanded attention, and somewhere deep in the quiet of the frozen world, the night was listening. The night remained unbroken, stretching endlessly across the horizon, and Eira found herself wandering through her notes from the Lightkeepers' journals. Something had begun to emerge from the scattered writings. A symbol, recurring across centuries, civilizations, and continents. A simple circle delicately broken by a single, straight line. At first, she dismissed it as coincidence. A motiv era, carving there. But the deeper she delved, the more insistent the symbol became. It appeared on temple walls in Persia, etched into the stone of Scandinavian longhouses, carved subtly into the ruins of ancient Egypt. Each instance shared the same precise form, as if some unseen hand had guided its creation through time. Eira spread the images across her desk, arranging them beneath the dim lamplight. The circle, whole yet fractured, seemed to pulse faintly in the shadows, a rhythm almost imperceptible. When she held a magnifying glass over the carvings, the broken line appeared to catch and bend the light, even in the faint glow of her study lamp. It was as if the symbol were alive, absorbing illumination and hinting at a deeper meaning beyond her understanding. She recalled the journal's warnings. The night feeds on forgetfulness, on neglect. Could this symbol be a key, a mnemonic device designed to anchor memory in the human mind? Her heart quickened. The thought of an ancient language, universal yet hidden, stirred a mix of awe and trepidation. Curiosity pulled her toward the window. Outside, the darkness seemed heavier, almost fluid, as if it responded to her thoughts. The distant hum she had felt at Stonehenge, and in her observatory rose subtly, threading through the frozen air. For the first time, she felt that the longest night wasn't passive. It was watching, patient, and aware. And this symbol, this circle and line, was its silent signature, a marker left across ages to guide those who would awaken the sun from its slumber. I retraced the image in the air with her finger, the motion connecting disparate carvings in her mind like invisible constellations. A shiver ran through her, not from the cold, but from recognition. Somewhere deep within her, she sensed a pulse, a rhythm older than any calendar, older than recorded history, resonating in tandem with the night itself. She whispered softly, almost to herself, It is everywhere, and yet it waits to be noticed. The symbol, simple yet profound, had begun to weave its presence into the very fabric of the night. And for the first time, Eira realized she was not just observing the longest night, she was becoming part of its memory. Eira's journey carried her far from the frozen plains of Europe to the sun-bleached deserts of Egypt. Yet Ebeneri, the endless night, persisted. The sky overhead was a deep indigo, the stars unfamiliar, trembling faintly against the darkness. Sand shifted under her boots, whispering with each step. Though the desert was windless, still as stone, she had come seeking the remnants of a forgotten temple, buried beneath layers of sand and silence. Locals spoke in hushed tones of strange murmurs that rose from its corridors during the solstice. Voices that called to travelers in languages lost to memory. Eira did not know whether she sought the wind, the voices, or simply confirmation that the longest night had spread farther than anyone had realized. The entrance to the temple yawned before her, a narrow stone mouth choked with dust. As she descended into the underground chamber, the air grew cool and heavy, carrying an aroma of old incense and mineral-rich earth. Her lantern flickered, casting shadows that danced along the hieroglyph-covered walls. Every glyph seemed alive, moving subtly when she blinked, as if trying to communicate secrets to old, forspoken language. Then she heard it, a faint sigh almost imperceptible at first, curling along the vaulted ceilings and through the stone corridors. A whisper, delicate and lilting, threaded through the air, carrying her own name. Eira, Eira. It was not echoed by any mouth, yet she felt its warmth against her skin, a presence brushing her consciousness. She paused, holding her breath. The wind, for all its unnatural stillness, had a direction now, bending gently against gravity, moving through stone corridors as though guided by invisible hands. The whispers grew, layering into harmonies she could not consciously understand, yet understood entirely. They spoke of memory, of vigilance, of attention. They carried the same pulse she had felt at Stonehenge and in her observatory, now amplified, vibrant, alive. Her eyes scanned the chamber. There, carved into the wall above a shadowed alcove, was the circle broken by a single line. The symbol glowed faintly under her lantern, resonating with the whispers, vibrating almost imperceptibly in the air around her. Eira felt an undeniable connection, the same mark, across cultures, continents, and centuries. Now present here, in the heart of a sleeping desert, she knelt, letting her fingertips hover above the carved line. The wind seemed to lean closer, the whispers wrapping around her mind like silk threads. For a moment, Eira felt the boundaries of time dissolve. She was not just standing in the temple, but stepping into a continuum of human memory, a lineage of watchers, keepers, and seekers who had all waited for this longest night. A shiver ran down her spine. The desert, the stones, the wind itself, all of it seemed to pulse with a quiet insistence. The night was not simply enduring, it was communicating, guiding her towards something vast and unseen. And Eira understood, in that fragile, suspended moment, that she had been chosen to listen. She whispered back, softly, almost reverently, "I hear you. I am listening." And for the first time, the darkness felt less empty, more aware. Patient, deliberate, and filled with secrets, waiting to be remembered. From the deserts of Egypt, Eira traveled north to the snow-clad forests of Scandinavia, where the longest night pressed against the earth with a weight both silent and immense. There, in a remote village nestled between frostbitten pines, she found a celebration unlike any she had ever known. Fires burned brightly, their glow defying the endless night, yet something about the scene felt eternal. Families gathered in longhouses and open clearings, their faces lit by flickering torches. Drums beat slowly, weaving a rhythm that seemed to echo through the trees and across frozen fields. Yet as Eira watched, she noticed a subtle, impossible repetition. Every movement, every toast, every shared laugh mirrored perfectly from one group to the next, as if time had folded in on itself. The feast she observed tonight had been repeated countless times before, and would continue to repeat, night after night. The villagers moved with a ceremonial grace, their chants blending into a melody that resonated with a haunting familiarity. Eira recognized fragments from the Persian lullabies, the hums she had felt in Egypt, and even the rhythm of the pulse beneath the stones of Stonehenge. Across centuries and continents, a pattern persisted, a collective remembrance, preserved in song, in ritual, in human memory. She stepped closer to the center of the clearing, where a great Yule log was set aflame. Shadows danced wildly along the snow, stretching and shrinking with each flicker, yet always in perfect harmony with the heartbeat of the festival. It was mesmerizing, intoxicating, even. And yet Eira felt a subtle unease. Something about this endless cycle suggested that the celebration was not merely joyous, it was necessary, a ritual to anchor the sun, to hold the world in delicate equilibrium while the longest night endured. Children laughed and spun, their voices rising in a song that had no beginning and no end. Elders intoned ancient prayers, their words trembling in the crisp night air. Eira realized the truth. This festival was alive, repeating itself to keep memory alive. The night had stretched too far, and only by performing these rituals, again and again, could humanity remind the universe of light, warmth, and hope. A hush fell as the villagers raised their cups in unison. Eira felt the pulse again, subtle but unmistakable, threading through the snow, the trees, the firelight, and her own heartbeat. The longest night was patient, yes, but it was watching, and it measured how attentively humans remembered. She whispered to herself, almost reverently. Every gesture, every song, every laugh. It matters. Even this, even now, matters. For the first time, Eira felt the festival as not merely a human act, but a covenant, a fragile, radiant connection between the enduring night and the warmth of human memory. And as the Yule fires flickered in the endless dark, she understood that some nights were never meant to end, at least, not until they had been fully remembered. Eira had been following the threads of the longest night across continents, yet she had never expected to feel its presence so intimately, so personal. In her travels, she gathered images, recordings, and notes from each solstice site, and now, reviewing them in her quiet study, she noticed something that made her breath catch. Shadow. A single, hooded silhouette that appeared in the reflection of every fire she had documented at Stonehenge, in the Scandinavian Yule festival, even in the flickering flames of the Egyptian temple. Always near the fire, always watching, yet never in mirrors, never captured directly by the camera's eye. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, like a trick of light or an overactive imagination. But as she went frame by frame, the figure's presence became undeniable. Eira leaned closer to the screen, her fingers tracing the faint outline of the cloak, the hood dipping low over an unseen face. In each frame, the figure seemed to bend slightly toward the fire, as if drawing something from its warmth, a spark, a memory, or perhaps a fragment of time itself. It was a guardian of sorts, ancient and patient, existing on the edge of perception, watching humanity interact with the rituals of remembrance. The firelight in each scene danced unnaturally around it, shadows curling and elongating in impossible ways. It did not move like a person. It moved like a thought, deliberate and measured, slipping in and out of the periphery of vision. And yet, when Eira tried to describe it, to name it, the words failed. The figure was not malevolent, but it was otherworldly, a subtle reminder that the longest night was not merely a measure of time but a living presence, entwined with memory, ritual, and attention. Eira shivered, feeling the same low hum she had felt at Stonehenge, in Egypt, and among the Scandinavian forests. It threaded through the floor beneath her chair, through the air, through her very bones. She realized that the shadow was not following her. It was waiting for everyone, patient, silent, and eternal. The more she studied the footage, the more patterns emerged. The figuress who dipped toward moments of intense human focus, a child carefully lighting a candle, elders joining hands in song, a solitary historian whispering words of remembrance into the night. The shadow absorbed these acts, almost drawing sustenance from them, and yet it remained unseen by most, a quiet observer, a witness to the fragile bond between humanity and light. Eira pressed her palm to the desk, whispering softly, as if speaking directly to the figure she could neither see nor touch. I see you. I understand now. You are part of this too. And for a long moment, the room fell into perfect stillness. The fire on her screen flickering once, twice, as if acknowledging her recognition. Somewhere beyond time, in the endless night, the shadow waited, patient and watchful, while the world continued its silent act of remembrance. Eira's research had taken her from frozen forests to desert temples, across centuries and cultures. Yet she still struggled to comprehend the vastness of what she was witnessing. She had been summoned to a remote observatory perched atop a jagged cliff, far from the prying eyes of cities. There, a reclusive astronomer, a man whose name was whispered in the academic circles as a genius bordering on obsession, awaited her. The observatory smelled of cold, metal, and ozone, the instruments humming faintly in the endless night. Telescopes pointed into the sky, yet the stars themselves seemed wrong. They shifted imperceptibly with each passing second, as though floating on a slow, deliberate current. Eira's pulse quickened. The astronomer, a wiry man with eyes like polished obsidian, gestured for her to sit. His hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from the weight of revelation. You've seen it, he said, voice low, almost a whisper. The constellations are not where they should be, not by centuries, not by millennia, but by tens of thousands of years. I have checked, rechecked, and simulated every model. And still, it is true. Eira leaned forward. What do you mean? He exhaled sharply, running a hand through graying hair. The alignment you see tonight, it last occurred 12,000 years ago, just before global darkness, recorded in fragments of legend, myth, and half-forgotten stories. The solstice has shifted. The night itself has stretched, and something ancient, something beyond mere physics, is influencing it. He paused, his gaze distant. I've spent my life tracking stars, measuring planets, predicting eclipses. I have never encountered anything like this. It is as if the universe itself is aware, as if it is listening, reacting, responding to us. Eira felt a shiver run down her spine, familiar yet intensified. The hum she had sensed at Stonehenge, in Egypt, in Scandinavia. Now she understood it was not just localized, not just mystical. It was cosmic, threaded through the very fabric of reality. The longest night was no longer a phenomenon to observe. It was a force, ancient and deliberate, intertwined with human attention and memory. The astronomer's hands hovered over a projection of the night sky. The familiar constellations swam slowly across the dome, bending toward unfamiliar positions, forming subtle patterns. It is not dying, not moving randomly, he murmured. It is shifting in response to something we cannot measure. Something sentient, perhaps, or at least aware. And tonight, it is paused, held still, for reasons I cannot yet explain. Eira's mind raced, connecting fragments. The stones that hummed, the symbols carved across continents, the shadow behind the fire, the festivals that repeated endlessly. The night was alive, yes, but also responsive. It measured memory, ritual, and attention, and the longest night had chosen her, among others, as witness. She whispered to herself, voice trembling yet steady. It is listening, and we are part of it. Outside, the endless darkness pressed against the observatory windows, patient, eternal, waiting for humanity to remember, to act, and perhaps to awaken the sun once more. Eira returned to a quiet, snow-blanketed chapel tucked deep in the northern mountains. Its stone walls, worn smooth by centuries of frost and wind, seemed to exhale the accumulated memory of countless solstices past. She carried with her a single candle, its wax pale as the moonless night, and the journals of the Lightkeepers, fragile repositories of a wisdom that spanned millennia. Inside, the chapel was still. The air smelled faintly of pine resin and ancient stone. Every step she took echoed softly, merging with the low, omnipresent hum she had felt at Stonehenge, in Egypt, and during the Scandinavian festival. It vibrated beneath her feet, through her bones, through her very heartbeat. Tonight, she understood. The hum was alive, waiting for her to complete its rhythm. She knelt in the center of the chapel, unfolding the instructions from the journals. The ritual was simple in form, yet profound in essence. Light the candle, observe the flame, and remember, not just the sun, but every memory of warmth, laughter, and hope. Every story, every song, every gesture of remembrance counted. It was a quiet act of defiance against the endless night. Her fingers trembled as she struck a match. The flame flickered, small and fragile, yet immediately it bent, subtly, leaning toward her heartbeat. Eira inhaled, closing her eyes. She began to recite, softly, words of remembrance from the Lightkeeper's journals. Each syllable seemed to resonate through the chapel, weaving with the hum, intertwining with the pulse of the night itself. Moments stretched into eternity. The candlelight danced against the cold stone, illuminating ancient carvings that had long waited to witness such devotion. The flame bent again, flickering in tandem with her breath, as if it were alive, aware, responding. Outside, the longest night pressed against the chapel windows, patient and waiting, yet not malevolent. It observed, listened, measured the depth of human memory. Eira felt herself dissolve into the ritual. She remembered her first winter, the warmth of her grandmother's hands, the sound of children laughing in distant forests, stories told and retold across the centuries. Each memory was a spark, a thread woven into the tapestry of human remembrance. She realized that the sun she sought to awaken had never been merely celestial. It always existed in these acts of collective memory, in the way humans remembered light. Even in darkness, a quiet shiver ran through her body. The candle's flame bent fully toward her now, steady and radiant, a living beacon in the cathedral of snow. The ritual was working not by force, but by recognition, by attention and care. The longest night, patient and immense, had found a human willing to remember. And in that still, sacred moment, Eira understood. The night was not endless. It only waited for someone to notice, to bear witness, to rekindle memory. She whispered into the silence, voice steady yet reverent, "Let the light belong to them." And for the first time that night, the darkness seemed to sigh a quiet release, a slow exhalation, as though the world itself acknowledged the act of remembrance. As Eira completed the memory ritual in the snowy chapel, she began to sense its echoes, spreading far beyond her own solitude. Across oceans and continents, small pockets of the world began to hum with subtle life, a resonance that was almost imperceptible, yet undeniably present. And in those pockets, children unburdened by doubt or worry began to respond. In a quiet village in Persia, a child awoke in the middle of the night, drawn to a small, carved temple nearby. There, etched into stone walls centuries old, was the broken circle with its single line. The child traced it gently with tiny fingers, and a melody rose from her lips, a lullaby she had never learned yet knew instinctively. The tune resonated perfectly with the carvings, filling the air with soft vibrations that rippled outward, carrying memory itself. Far to the north, in the Scandinavian forests, another group of children hummed the same melody while gathered around Yule fires that had burned without end, their voices intertwined with the crackle of flames, with the drifting snow, with the rhythm of drums that had long ceased to play. The song carried fragments of stories, legends, and prayers, knitting them together into a fragile tapestry of remembrance. Even in remote deserts, where the wind moved unnaturally through buried temples, children began to hum in harmony with the whispers Eira had heard in Egypt. It was as if memory itself had chosen them, small and unassuming vessels through which the sun's warmth could be remembered and nurtured. Eira felt the connection from her snowy chapel, a subtle pull at the edges of her awareness. The children's humming mirrored her own recitation of the ritual. The pulse of the world synchronized, weaving a thread between continents and generations. Time no longer felt linear. It felt elastic, a vast web in which every remembered note and every attentive heart mattered. The longest night, patient as ever, seemed to shift, its weight lightened slightly by the chorus of remembrance. The shadow behind the fire, the hum beneath the stones, the bending candlelight, all responded to these small yet profound acts. In a world suspended between darkness and dawn, It was the innocence and clarity of children that acted as the final anchor. Eira whispered softly, almost to herself, almost to the night. They remember. And in their remembering, the world will awaken. And somewhere, faint but undeniable, the hum deepened, threaded with a new, melodic pulse. The night, patient and sentient, had found its witnesses. Eira watched the threads of memory ripple across the world as children hummed, rituals completed, and symbols glowed faintly beneath the patient night. And then, as she rested in the quiet of her snowy chapel, an old myth emerged from the depths of her research, a truth older than any calendar or recorded observation. The sun was not dying. It was sleeping. Not in the casual sense, of course, but as though the celestial body itself could pause, curl into a slumber deep enough to stretch the night across continents and centuries. Every story ever told about warmth, hope, and the sun's return was not simply legend. It was instruction, a collective act of remembrance. Each ritual, each hum, each candlelit vigil contributed to its awakening. The sun waited, patient and vast, for humanity to remember it. Eira stepped outside, the endless darkness pressing softly against her cheeks. Across the frozen horizon, the faintest glow hinted at something stirring. Her mind drifted to all the civilizations she had visited. Stonehenge, Egypt, Persia, Scandinavia, each had sought the sun in its own way, through fire, song, and memory. And now, those acts were converging, threading together into a network of attention so precise and deliberate that the longest night itself seemed to lean in, listening. She realized the full weight of the truth. The sun's slumber was not passive. It was conscious in its own cosmic rhythm, sensitive to human memory, and awaiting the culmination of remembrance. To awaken it, humanity could not simply light candles or hum songs. It had to collectively acknowledge warmth, hope, and the continuity of stories across generations. Eira knelt again in the snow, feeling the pulse of the night beneath her fingertips. The world was silent, yet alive with potential. The hum she had felt in distant lands, the shadow behind every fire, the bending flame in her own hands, all were threads of consciousness, interwoven with the sun's own dream. And in that quiet, frozen stillness, she understood. The sun did not rise because of clocks or orbit. It rose because memory was awake. The stories told in whispers, the songs hummed by children, the rituals performed in reverence. These were the mechanisms of awakening. Eira lifted her face to the endless sky, speaking softly into the still night. Sleep well, and know that we remember. The hum deepened, resonant and tender, threading across continents and generations. Somewhere, far beyond the reach of her eyes, the sun stirred in its slumber, sensing the collective remembrance and drawing closer to awakening. The longest night had endured, patient and vigilant, but it was finally beginning to yield to memory and care. After witnessing the children's songs rippled across continents and sensing the stirrings of the sleeping sun, Eira found herself drawn to a place few had ever seen. A hidden museum tucked beneath the city streets, a repository not of art or artifacts, but of time itself. Its entrance was unassuming, a narrow stone archway tucked behind a quiet bookstore. Yet stepping inside felt like crossing a threshold between reality and memory. The museum smelled of old paper, polished stone, and something faintly metallic. The scent of moments preserved, moments forgotten. Hallways stretched endlessly, lit by soft golden lamps that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of history. Each exhibit was a day lost, erased, or overlooked. Calendars from vanished civilizations, scrapbooks of societies that had disappeared, and clocks frozen mid-tick lined the walls. Every item vibrated faintly, resonating with the hum Eira had felt across continents, tying past to present in a subtle, living network. One particular display drew her closer. A glass case labeled simply, "Tomorrow is empty," yet it seemed to hum with latent potential. Eira felt her chest tighten. This museum was not merely a record of history. It was a conscious archive of human memory, holding the days that had been forgotten, paused, or erased. And tonight, in the longest night, These lost days were not passive. They were aware, listening, waiting for someone to acknowledge them. She wandered through corridors where entire civilizations seemed to linger in silence. A calendar from an ancient Persian city vibrated faintly under her touch, and she glimpsed dates where celebrations had vanished. Songs unremembered, lives erased from collective memory. Yet, as she moved, the children's hums, the candlelight rituals, and the repeated festivals seemed to awaken these lost moments, weaving them into the present. The museum was breathing again. Eira knelt before a case containing a tattered journal, its pages blank yet quivering as if waiting for words. She realized that the longest night was not merely a test of endurance or patience. It was a test of remembrance, a reminder that the threads of memory, when acknowledged, could restore what had been lost, even the very light of the sun. She whispered softly, as if speaking to the museum itself. We remember, and through remembering, all that was forgotten lives again. The hum deepened, and for the first time, Eira felt the museum's silent corridors resonate with joy. The forgotten days had been acknowledged. The longest night, patient and sentient, seemed to lighten, as if approving her understanding. And somewhere beyond time, the sleeping sun stirred a fraction more, sensing the connection between memory, attention, and the human heart. The world had grown quieter in some ways, yet resonant in others. The children's hums, the rituals, and the acknowledgement of forgotten days had created a subtle symphony, a song woven from memory, attention, and hope. Eira sensed it in every corner of the globe, a melody stretching across oceans, deserts, forests, and frozen plains. And then, as if responding to the collective remembrance, the sky itself began to shift. Auroras, pale and ethereal, started to shimmer faintly along the horizon. At first, they were just whispers of light, but as the song of memory gained strength, the auroras pulsed and thickened, forming the unmistakable shape of the broken circle and its single line. The symbol hovered above the world, drawn in luminous bands of green, violet, and gold, stretching across continents like a cosmic signature. Eira stood on a hill far from any city, feeling the hum rise through her feet, her body, her chest. The broken circle pulsed with a rhythm in perfect synchrony, with the songs being hummed by children and whispered by elders around the world. The night itself seemed to resonate, bending gently toward the symbol, as if acknowledging that humanity had remembered, that they had fulfilled the quiet, patient request of the longest night. The symbol was alive in subtle ways. The line extended and contracted faintly, as though breathing, and the circle itself shimmered, refracting faint stars into miniature constellations. It was not just a visual phenomenon. It vibrated with a song that only those who remembered could hear. Eira could feel it in her bones, in the cadence of her heartbeat, in the deep resonance of the night around her. And then she realized something profound. This was the night responding, the world itself singing. All the symbols, all the rituals, all the whispers and hums had combined into a cosmic symphony, orchestrated across time and space. The broken circle was not a warning or a marker. It was a message, a celebration, and a call to unity, resonating in every human memory attuned to it. Eira closed her eyes, letting the song wash through her. She could hear the echoes of children in Persia, the chants of Yule fires in Scandinavia, the soft murmurs of priests long gone, and the beating of her own heart, all part of the same melody. The longest night, vast and patient, had been listening all along, and now it was singing with humanity in return. For the first time since the night had begun, Eira felt the subtle promise of dawn, not as a distant sun, but as the collective memory of light, ready to awaken. Eira had felt the pulse of the world, the hum threading across continents, the children's songs rising in harmony, and the auroras of the broken circle painting the sky. And yet, as she absorbed the quiet triumph of collective remembrance, a shadow lingered in her mind, a whisper of doubt she had not expected. Her mentor, a man whose guidance had shaped her journey through the mysteries of the solstice, appeared at her side. His expression was calm, almost sorrowful, but his eyes held a secret too heavy to speak aloud. "Eira," he said softly, voice trembling like a candle flame in the wind. "You have done what many could not. You have remembered, awakened memory, and drawn the song of humanity into resonance. But there is something you must understand. The Lightkeeper's ritual, it requires a sacrifice. Eira's heart stopped. A sacrifice, she whispered. He nodded. Not of life, not of flesh, but of memory. One must forge it, relinquish their recollection of warmth, of laughter, of color, so that the rest of the world can remember. Without this act, the longest night would endure, never fully yielding to light. The enormity of the revelation crashed into her. The world had been restored in part, but this final act demanded something almost unbearable. To erase her own memories of all she had cherished, all she had learned and felt, to allow the dawn to fully awaken. Eira looked outward at the glowing auroras above, the children humming across continents, the pulse of the night weaving through the world. Every thread, every vibration, every spark of remembrance depended on her. The shadow of sacrifice loomed large, yet she understood it was necessary, patient, and deliberate. Like the night itself, Hamenta continued, voice heavy with quiet resignation. I have known this since the first ritual. I have watched countless solstices, countless attempts. And each time someone must bear the burden of forgetting so that the world may awaken. Tonight, it is your turn. Eira closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of memory within her, the warmth of sunlit days she had never truly experienced, but could imagine vividly, the laughter of friends and the joy of discovery. She realized that this night, this long and patient darkness, had tested her not merely for courage or endurance, but for selflessness, for the willingness to place collective memory above personal desire. And as she opened her eyes, the aurora seemed to bend toward her, responding to her understanding. She whispered to the night, to the world, to the sleeping sun, I will let the light belong to them. The hum intensified, a resonant chorus, echoing across time and space. Eira felt the first thread of dawn tug at the edge of the horizon, fragile and faint, yet unmistakable. She understood that her memories would fade, yet the world would awaken fully, renewed and radiant. And in that quiet, sacrificial moment, she felt a deep, solemn peace, knowing that the night's patience, the children's songs, and humanity's memory had all been honored. Eira stood alone atop a cathedral of snow, the endless night pressing silently against the frozen peaks. The sky above shimmered with the auroras of the broken circle, pulsing in time with the songs of children and the hum of the world itself. Every thread of memory, every ritual she had witnessed, every whispered legend converged here, and all of it demanded a single, impossible decision. Hamenta's words echoed in her mind. The Lightkeeper's ritual required a sacrifice. One person must relinquish all memory of warmth, joy, and color so that the world could fully awaken. The weight of it pressed on her chest like frozen stone. She felt the pulse beneath her feet, the subtle vibrations threading through the air, and she understood with absolute clarity. If she hesitated, the longest night would continue its patient stretch, consuming stars, silencing auroras, and stalling dawn itself. Eira knelt, letting the cold seep through her cloak, touching her skin, embedding itself in her very bones. She closed her eyes and imagined the memories she would lose. The touch of sunlight on her face, laughter echoing across distant valleys, the songs hummed by children she had never met, the stories she had gathered across civilizations. The thought threatened to break her heart, yet she felt a profound certainty settle in its place. This was not merely a ritual of remembrance, it was an act of love for the world itself. She rose slowly, taking a deep breath that seemed to draw the night into her lungs and exhale it back in resonance. The auroras pulsed more brightly, as if urging her onward. Eira extended her hands, palms open toward the sky, and whispered, I release my memories, my warmth, my joy. Let the world remember. Let the sun awaken. A low hum rose from the frozen ground, threading upward into the sky. The auroras bent toward her, the broken circle glowing with intensity, pulsing like a heartbeat in perfect synchrony with the pulse of the earth. She felt her memories begin to blur, the vivid colors of life softening into pale light, yet she did not falter. In that sacrifice, She became the conduit through which the longest night would finally yield. The snow around her shimmered, responding to her decision. Stars twinkled faintly, bending their light in acknowledgement. Somewhere far away, children finished their lullabies, their songs merging with the cosmic resonance Eira had helped orchestrate. The night, patient and sentient, seemed to exhale for the first time, releasing its grip ever so slightly, allowing the fragile first threads of dawn to stretch across the horizon. Eira whispered one final thought into the silent cathedral of snow. The light belongs to them, and in that quiet, sacrificial moment, she felt a profound truth. Memory, even when surrendered, was never truly lost. It flowed outward, threading through the world, rekindling warmth in hearts and skies alike. The longest night had met its keeper, and she had chosen well. After making her choice, Eira stood in the cathedral of snow, the weight of her sacrifice pressing quietly against her heart. The longest night had been patient, vast, and infinitely aware. Yet now it seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. The auroras above the broken circle and its single line hung in the sky, shimmering faintly, pulsing in perfect synchrony with the hum of the earth. And then, the world fell into absolute silence. It was a silence unlike any she had known. No wind whispered through the pines. No distant owl or fox broke the stillness. Even the snow seemed frozen in mid-fall. Time itself felt suspended, as though the night was listening intently, measuring her act, weighing her sacrifice against the promise of dawn. The echoes of children's songs, the hum of rituals, the pulse of memory, all had been absorbed into this quiet. Eira felt the emptiness of the silence settle around her, but she did not waver. The memories she had released, the laughter, the warmth, the colors of life had already flowed outward, threading into the song of humanity and the resonance of the world. She felt the faint tug of dawn at the edge of her perception, delicate and tentative, like a whisper brushing against the horizon. In that stillness, she spoke softly, not for the night, not for the auroras, but for humanity itself. Let the light belong to them. Her words were carried by the hum beneath the snow, vibrating upward into the sky, a quiet declaration of trust and surrender. The broken circle above seemed to shimmer in acknowledgement, its single line bending faintly toward her, like a pulse of approval. The silence stretched on, infinite, until it became almost sacred, a moment outside of time where the world itself paused to honor memory, sacrifice, and the patient work of the longest night. And then, almost imperceptibly at first, a pale glow began to seep along the horizon. It was faint, fragile, yet undeniable. The sky itself seemed to inhale, drawing in centuries of darkness and exhaling a breath of light. The auroras above pulsed once more, their song threading into the awakening dawn. The night, having received its witness, its keeper, released its final grip. Eira remained kneeling in the cathedral of snow, feeling the first whispers of warmth in the air. The world had shifted subtly, irrevocably, and though her memories of sunlight, laughter, and color would fade, she sensed their presence in every heartbeat, every thread of memory, every living soul ready to greet the sun. And in that profound, suspended quiet, she understood the deepest truth of all. The night had never been endless. It only waited for someone to notice, to bear witness, and to surrender in order that the world might awaken. The silence that had stretched across the cathedral of snow was finally broken not by sound, but by light, delicate and imperceptible at first. A pale, soft glow brushed the horizon, tinting the edges of the world with faint hues of gold and rose. It was as if the earth itself had exhaled, releasing the long-held breath of centuries of darkness. Far across the globe, the children who had hummed the forgotten lullabies paused, feeling a subtle warmth in their hearts, a shared heartbeat vibrating through continents and oceans. The auroras, still visible above the northern skies, bent and shimmered one final time, the broken circle dissolving into gentle ribbons of color that seemed to merge with the first light. Eira, kneeling in the cathedral of snow, felt the faint brush of warmth on her face. Not the sun she remembered fully, but the impression of it carried through the act of remembrance, through the collective song of humanity. Somewhere far away, a child finished the final notes of the lullaby, and the world shivered, as if in acknowledgement. Birds began to call softly, their songs careful and unhurried, echoing across valleys and forests. The air, long still and cold, seemed to breathe again, carrying the scent of pine, earth, and the faint sweetness of snow melting. Slowly, subtly, the horizon blushed, and the sun awakened, not by mechanics, but by memory stretched its light across the world. Eira rose, feeling the hum of the longest night fade into gentle resonance. She no longer remembered the vivid colors, the laughter, the warmth she had sacrificed. Yet she felt their echo in every living thing. In the glow of dawn, in the songs of birds, in the first footsteps of humans venturing into the new day. The longest night had ended, patient and sentient, releasing its grip and allowing the world to awaken fully. And as the sun rose, timid, yet unstoppable, she whispered to the world and to the night that had carried her through it all. The light belongs to them. The longest night was no more, but its memory lingered, woven into the first breath of morning, threaded into the awakening of the sun, and carried forward in the collective remembrance of humanity. The world had awakened, bathed in the gentle, patient light of the first dawn. Birds sang freely, rivers glimmered under the timid sun, and snow began to glisten with golden warmth. Yet amid this ordinary renewal, something extraordinary lingered quietly, imperceptible to most. The memory of the longest night had been carefully tucked away, like a secret that could only be felt, never fully seen. Eira walked through the waking streets of a city just stirring to life. People moved about their routines, unaware of the night that had stretched beyond time, of the rituals that had preserved the sun, or of the children who had hummed the lullabies that rekindled it. She realized, with a soft ache, that the world remembered everything except her. She was a witness and a keeper, yet the collective memory of humanity had chosen to forget the hand that guided them through the darkness. The solstice documentary she had begun, chronicling history and myth, remained in archives and libraries, but no author was listed. No historian's name adorned the title page. The books opened with her voice still whispering through the narration. Tonight, the world tilts ever so slightly. She passed by children who played beneath the sun, their laughter warm and unknowing, and she felt a quiet satisfaction. Though she would never again recall the vivid colors, the warmth of sunlit days, or the music of the world she had sacrificed, she sensed their essence flowing through every life she had touched indirectly. Her memory had become a silent conduit, a hidden thread woven into the fabric of the world. Eira lingered at the edge of a quiet park, watching light filter through trees, feeling the faint hum of existence beneath her feet. The longest night was gone, yet its presence lingered in every shadow and glimmer of sunlight. She had become a historian without recognition, a keeper whose work was invisible yet essential, and in the soft whisper of wind through the branches, she heard it, the faintest echo of the broken circle, the lingering resonance of memory, the subtle hum of the world acknowledging its quiet guardian. Eira smiled, a calm, serene understanding settling in her chest. Two world. She was forgotten, but in truth, she had ensured the world would remember, even without her name attached, even without acknowledgement. The night had ended, but a quiet act of remembrance would resonate eternally, invisible, yet present, like a heartbeat threading through the dawn. Centuries later, long after the longest night had passed into legend or what people believed was legendy, new historian entered her quiet office. The walls were lined with books, some ancient, some freshly printed, and the air held the faint scent of parchment and wax. She had stumbled upon an odd marking carved faintly into the wood of her desk, a broken circle with a single line, glowing faintly in the morning light that streamed through the window. A whisper stirred behind her microphone, soft and almost imperceptible. The night was never endless. It only waited for you to notice how long it had been. The historian paused, heart fluttering, sensing something more than coincidence. The hum of memory, so subtle yet persistent, filled the room. It was the resonance of countless solstices, of children who had hummed forgotten lullabies, of rituals long performed in snowy chapels and sunlit temples. It threaded through time itself, invisible to most, yet tangible to those who truly listened. She traced the symbol with her fingertips, feeling a pulse beneath the carved line, a heartbeat older than any history she had studied. In that instant, the line between legend and reality blurred. The endless dawn stretched infinitely, not just across the sky, but through memory, consciousness, and story. Light and remembrance had become inseparable, a living continuum that no human or even sun could fully contain. Somewhere in the silence, the faint echo of a voice rose, soft and familiar, though no one alive would ever name it. It carried the warmth of 1,000 sunrises, and the quiet power of an invisible guardian who had given everything to let the world remember. The endless dawn was not just a moment. It was a state of being, a promise that memory, sacrifice, and attention could shape reality itself. And in that glowing, eternal morning, the historian realized the truth that Eira had known all along. The longest night had never been about darkness, but about human remembrance, awareness, and the quiet acts that let light return. The dawn, finally unbroken, stretched infinitely across the world and across time, carrying the legacy of a keeper who no one remembered, yet whose influence was written into every heartbeat of every living thing. The world would never forget the light, even if it forgot the one who attended it. And so, the night finally breathed its last sigh. The first dawn shimmered across the horizon, carried by the memory of one who gave everything so the world could remember the sun. The stars faded, but their echo remained waiting for someone else. Centuries later, to notice how long the darkness had lasted. Perhaps that someone is you. Thank you for joining this journey through the longest night of the year. If you found calm, wonder, or even a bit of warmth in the story, leave a light in the comments below. Until the next tale, rest easy beneath the stars. Good night, and may the dawn always find you.